previously you've kept so much of yourself out of what you were doing creatively, and with Kristin Kontrol you get to broaden the reflection of the music you are so fond of. How much of a liberating approach was that for you?
It was really liberating. I don't think I recognized that I felt so limited, and I don't know that I really was. It was kind of just like, record by record. Maybe in the last 3 years or so, I was like, oh wow, I've kind of, built up this really strong aesthetic musically and visually, and it's maybe about to start working against me if I want to continue, expanding on my sound, which I've tried to do, even within Dum Dum Girls. But I feel like I kind of like hit a ceiling there, and that's what necessitated, stepping aside and sort of trying to reestablish something that didn't have a template.
And with the record itself, you wrote without pretense and intention. What were the benefits of having this approach?
Well, yeah, just really not having to try to figure out how things would fit together. I didn't worry about how it was going to be performed live. I knew that I was going to enlist some new producers who would sort of be able to take what I was trying to do, which included, using newer sounds that I, know nothing about, like more electronic stuff. So I knew that if I just kind of painted a vague picture of what I wanted, in my demos, I could then hand it off, and it would be like giving it to an expert in another field and being like, please, I'm sure you can kind of tell what I'm going for, but like use the real tools that you're a master of, and bring it to life in the way it should be.
How would you assess the role of your voice for this record? I mean, you're a soprano, you've been taught vocally for many, many years, and you stated you wanted to move away from the indie rock type of vocals, and there's a wide range, a lot of diversity with the way you're using and maneuvering your voice. But overall, how would you assess it for this record?
It's not that I wanted to move. There's all sorts of great vocal melodies that exist in indie music. I think I meant more sort of like the if you think of like early Kinks or like Joan Jett, where it's all very guttural and kind of like talky, and the melodies are much more horizontal than they are vertical. And I think I did a bit of experimentation with different melodies on my last record, but I never really like let the gates up and explored like, more sing-songy sort of melodic things. And so I was looking to do that. And fortunately, the whole disaster of writing on keyboard, that was something that I did get out and did get like the experience of putting into practice. Like those weirder songs are all very, very much like that in terms of the vocal melodies. So when I finally got back into writing, just better basic songs, I took that with me, which was cool because, a lot of my favorite stuff has always been, more singerly things, whether it's Kate Bush or Julie Cruz or, all sorts of people, but I'd never really allowed myself to dabble in that area, so it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I have to ask you about album closer, Smoke Rings. During the song you talk about not needing change and saying goodbye, feeling blue. Was this, when you're sequencing the record, did you identify this early on as the album closer?
No, in fact it didn't exist. I have this thing, which I'm sure most musicians have, where, like as I said, I had done so many songs, probably like 60, 62 songs, for this session. Only the last 15 were ever contenders. And so I had enough songs for a 10-song record, but it just didn't feel complete. And I'm not the kind of person that thinks ahead of time about the order or the flow of an album. I just felt like I needed, like there was something missing, and I thought it was probably like a more direct minimal, sort of slow song, kind of in the vein of What is Love, or so I had a song that didn't make too true, that was much more of like a straight ahead kind of 60s ballad called Blowing Smoke. And so I was kind of hell-bent on trying to rework that to make it work out. And so Andrew and I, toiled with that for a while and came up with a great version, but it's a little too exact of like a doo-wop ballad or something. And I was like, I don't really want anything that sounds that much, like a ballad that Dum Dum Girls would do, which is simple but like is very much of that era. And so I ended up taking the theme and like a couple of the key lines and rewriting a song, and I did it like second to last day of mixing the album. And I did a very, very skeletal demo, and I sent it to Andrew like without any direction, and I was just like, I feel like this is the closer, like it gives me goosebumps, and I think that this is what's missing from the record.
A few years ago we spoke, and you mentioned, when I asked you, what you hope to maintain as you head forward, you mentioned that it's all about having an appreciative perspective, and mentioned not getting jaded. Is that very much still the ethos to, as you progress, to that whole getting jaded element?
Yeah, I mean that I would never want to feel that way, and I think that part of what motivated me to make a break and a big change was just this feeling of approaching that area where it was like, if I continue to release music as Dum Dum Girls, I continue to tour it, like I'm already feeling a tension, and I'm already feeling like I'm not totally able to do what I want to do, and that ultimately is going to result in me not being psyched on what I'm doing. And so, I can't have that. So I'd rather start over, and it has cost me, like, it's not like I'm starting at where Dum Dum Girls stopped. It's definitely, it's not a complete do-over, but there's definitely an element of hustling that has come back very full force, which I like. I like to feel challenged, and I like to work hard, and so anytime I start to feel like I could be coasting, it's like, okay, no, I gotta abort. Like,
what can you tell us about Christmas night being spent watching Biggie documentaries?
Gosh, where was I? Oh, yeah, that happened. I can't remember where I was. I must have been in California visiting family. But it was, a bit anticlimactic in the traditional Christmas sense. I think everyone had gone to sleep very early. So, it was kind of just like, that was the companion. That was the house guest for the evening.
What matters most as you venture ahead?
I mean, I'm kind of at that point now where everything Kristin Kontrol has existed, in the studio or on paper, more conceptually, and so now I'm at that critical point of figuring out how to carry it forward live, which is both exciting and scary. And so I'm hoping to not only take the record and perform it faithfully, but have there be a significantly extra element to it. I'm just hoping that my desire to do something new and more expansive and entertaining and heartbreaking, like, I just hope all of those, like, sort of emo goals of mine comes across in the live performance.
Absolutely, and best of luck with that.